Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining us today. As you can see, I have Pam Gregory back. I'm so excited. I've been waiting for this interview for about 2 months now. I think 8 weeks have we had you booked in? Yeah, we have to book you in far ahead because you're one of the busiest ladies on the internet right now. Thank you for joining me again, Pam. How are you today?
Yeah, great to be with you, Nat. Real joy and a pleasure. We had a great conversation last time, so I'm looking forward to it.
We did indeed. We've got some, for those who are out there wanting to know what the hell's going on, we're not going to talk about the two big topics that everyone's talking about. We're swerving away from that. We're going to raise the vibe on this conversation. And we want to, myself personally, we want to bring you back to focusing on what you can do in order to raise your vibe and a positive mindset, as opposed to kind of getting swept away in what's going on in the world, which is very enticing. It's the most dramatic time we've ever lived in. Which is nuts. And if you don't have any social media like me, you do look for your drama somewhere. And occasionally I get the odd video, but that world is staying out of this video today. So I wanted, and Pam kindly emailed me yesterday and said, let's raise the vibe a little. I was like, yes, this is what we want to do. So we're on the same wavelength. So Pam, since we last spoke, obviously, the world has been getting rather crazy and you have been very busy all over YouTube doing your stuff. I'm absolutely loving all the interviews that you do. I often get friends sending me your videos, go, oh, she's done another one. And we just love the way that you are very calm, very measured, very clear, very clean. And it's just a message that, I see you as like a wise elder, somebody that we should all be looking up to. And I really want to thank you for helping us, just to balance, because it's a bit nuts out there at the moment. Today, I wanted to talk about a subject that is very dear to my heart that I've been working on more and more. And you've mentioned a few times in some of your videos. And it's about, our sovereignty, our law, our truth, what it is that's actually true for us. And I learned something, which I don't know if you're aware of, but a few months ago, I learned something that really helped me to decipher some information. And I learned the difference between the words true and truth. So I don't know if you understand the difference between them, but I will, just for the listener, explain it. So true is provable by way of evidence, and your truth is based on your opinion to what you think happened. So it's your assumption, basically. And knowing that there's a difference between those has really helped me on a personal level come back to myself and question myself, is that really true? Or am I assuming that is happening? And when I assume, I go into drama. When I assume, I go into the story, whatever that story may be. Are you aware of the difference between those words? Have you heard of that before?
I haven't heard it before, but of course, this is right at the heart of Byron Katie's work. If you know Byron Katie,
I do.
Because she will always say, is that really true?
Yeah.
Or are you just creating the drama, jumping to certain conclusions about it when actually there may be no drama? So keep it clean and simple and go into yourself always to find your own truth. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's really helped me to decipher all sorts of things, whether it's my feelings, whether it's, whether I want a Deliveroo this evening, is that really true? Or is it just that, I'm feeling a bit emotional, am I trying to be lazy? Could I not get in the kitchen and cook? Right down to, I'm hearing news and it's quite shocking. And I'm thinking, oh, that I don't want that to be true. And it's, is it true or is it an assumption? Am I on the grapevine here? And it's really helped bring me back into a space where I can very quickly cut out of the drama and come back to myself. And you've been mentioning, as I've been watching you, what you often do is go into the garden and sit in nature.
Yeah, I
love it.
So incredibly simple. I just, when things get too crazy in my head, which they do on a very regular basis, I just have to sit, legs straight out, sit like a small child on the grass and just be blank and just feel the earth, hear the sounds, hear the birds, try and hear the silence behind the birds and the silence behind that. And I keep it really simple. And I try and find a state of groundedness, but also bliss. And that can get me there really fast. So if you have a sort of default method of doing that, people seem to think I'm a landowner with hundreds of acres of land. That absolutely is not true. I've got a little garden. When I walk in nature, I walk in public land. Anybody can go. And even in my very first apartment, I remember the only thing was in central London, but I could see one tree from my window, and that tree just through all the seasons sustained me. I almost, before I knew anything about trees, developed a relationship with that tree to kind of just keep me in contact with nature. So and nature, even if you go to your little local park or patch of grass, everybody has that. And to me, that's an absolute go-to, because nature doesn't lie to us. Nature is always truth. Nature is always there. And the other thing is, as well, Nat, as you were talking, with all the terrible stuff that's happening in the world, as well as the process that you've just explained, I also say to myself, yeah, that is absolutely a reality. There's no doubt about it. It's out there, and I know people living through it, but it doesn't have to be my reality, because there are multiple, infinite timelines. So I'm not going to choose that. I'm not going to energize that with my focus and attention. I'm going to look over here to something way simpler, way more beautiful. And that's what I'm going to energize and activate. And I'm very strict with myself, because, of course, it's so dramatic, isn't it? What's happening at 3D level? It's so
a little bit
easy, just to get, wow, and that's how, and can you believe, and now this and that. And it's very easy to get caught up in the drama, which is why I never, ever listen to any news. As people know, I switch on my mobile phone maybe every other month. I will just, I am happy living in the 1800s, because it's much simpler. Because I think sovereignty is about coming from you, from your center, from your anchor, from your heart. It isn't accepting external reality which is being imposed on you by anyone or any authority figure or leader or anybody. I choose my truth. I choose my center and my anchor and my heart. And in doing that, I just think that's a way, not only it's a much simpler way to live, because there's so much complexity out there, but it's actually a really authentic way to live, and a really healthy way to live as well. I'm not going to listen to anybody telling me what to do, I'm afraid. I'm
such a rebel.
I am indeed, with a
rebel.
Civilized English accent, but yes, I am indeed. Yes. Anyway, long answer to your question.
No, I appreciate it. There's a real, because I often have conversations on a deep level with all sorts of people, whether it's quantum physics, we go down a rabbit hole, or whether it's, the nature of reality that we're living in, or the current climate. And there's a difference between focusing on what you want to experience and avoidance. And I think a lot of people are going into rightly so, a terrifying level of avoidance, because they don't understand, they can't comprehend, they don't fully get the full, the picture of what's going on. And when they do try and comprehend it, when they might try and think about something that's not quite right, it's so terrifying, because it means so much for your reality. It means so much. It means that you really have to delve inside yourself and look at a different area of yourself that you may not have wanted to look at before. And that can be quite a frightening journey. And obviously the help of nature and coming back to yourself as often as possible. But I do wish, it's one of my deepest wishes, which is why I've built I Am Sound, which is the membership that we've got. And it's for me, learning to be okay with looking at things I don't want to look at, and then choosing to look at something else. If I avoided these things, that I'm not progressing in any way. I'm in avoidance. I've got my head in the sand and I've got my arse in the air, which is not a good position to be in if you don't want to be in that position. It's like, that's not the best way to do it, but it's allowing that to come into your reality and say, yeah, do you know what? I don't like this. I'm going to choose something else, rather than being like, this isn't happening. It's not happening. I don't believe that. And it's a very different place, because you come from it metaphysically from a different place, because you're allowing reality. You're not denying reality, which is very hard for a lot of people. We deny reality because we don't like it. And that's what causes our resistance. But if we are willing to look at reality and to embrace it for what it is, but then also from that space to choose the different reality, like you said, to be able to choose the one that you want to live in, that's a power. That's where your sovereignty lies. I believe that's where your freedom comes from. Somebody asked me many, many moons ago what freedom meant to me. And it's my personal freedom is I need to be comfortable and free to be able to feel whatever comes up for me, and not to want to reach for my phone or for a cigarette or for a drink or to avoid it in some way. I want to feel freedom enough so I can feel what happens in the moment, and then I can move through it. And what I used to do was resist everything. And, you know, I gave up drugs, sex, like all sorts of different things, you know, and social media. I brought the sex back in, but the rest stayed, the rest stayed away. But the idea was that I knew that I couldn't maintain the life I wanted to live by constantly checking out of it, you know, and checking out of this current reality that we're in is hard. It's very difficult to kind of like go on into another world without knowing what's truly possible. But I think people like yourself and the vision that you have, you know, with the work that I'm doing as well, and other people, we do have a vision of what it can look like. Not like we've got, but we do have this innate vision to say it can be different and let's create it. What do you think for yourself personally? What if you had a longing in your heart? What would you wish that people could see that you envisioned? What do you think that you would like to take, you know, for them to take on and really kind of tune into that?
Yeah, and just before I answer that question, Nat, just to go back to what you were saying, because you know, I'm sometimes accused by people who watch my videos, say, oh, you're just, you know, pie in the sky, it's all fairy tale and Disney, and, you know, you've got to look at the gritty stuff. And what you're saying is absolutely right. Our mastery comes in knowing what's happening at that 3D level. And despite that, still being able to hold a high vibration. So it's watching all this, you know, really tough stuff. And it's going to get tougher at the 3D level. Really sorry to say that. The next 6 months are going to be much tougher. So, yeah, absolutely. Who is this woman? But sort of seeing that, staying in a neutral state, not on your eagle's perch, not getting caught up in the negative emotion around that and the drama, and saying, okay, I see that, I can integrate it, and yet still I can keep my frequency high to create something else. And it's the creation, I think, which is so exciting. And I literally know people, I'm in contact with a lot of people now who are setting up groups, like-minded people, and they are literally doing this. It isn't just, you know, in 10 years' time they'll do that. They are literally doing this. They're finding through setting clear intention, through having a vision of what they want, they are literally finding land, starting to grow food organically, sharing the food, you know, often quite substantial groups of people that have different skills. So they all come together to share their skills. And the values, you know, Uranus in Taurus, our values have changed so fast from a few years ago of buying stuff and, you know, our sort of territorial materialism and this is mine and that's not yours. You know, I've worked hard for this, but now with all this Aquarius energy coming in, it's so much more about collaboration, community, sharing, and the joy in your heart comes from, well, how can I help you? How can I share? You know, do you know how to grow vegetables outside, and I know how to grow microgreens inside. You know, we can. So it's teaming up with people, and the joy that comes from that sense of community and collaboration is immense, because actually we've never really had that in our, well, I remember sort of in hippie days, but I was very, very young then. You know, that was really the birth of some of the things. It planted seeds in hippie communities and growing their, planted some seeds astrologically, in fact, in terms of what we're now coming back to. But we are going to be recreating society, rebirthing society from the grassroots up. It's no longer going to be, as we move forwards, it's not going to be top down, because top down authority will be seen to have failed, to have been corrupt, to have been massively unequal, massively in the world. You know, the top 1%, you know, their wealth is just vast compared to the, you know, the people at the bottom. And so that has to be rectified. So it's going to be a much more equal society of sharing and caring. And I think we're going to be moving from the mind to the heart. We're going to be moving from the mind to the heart. And that's going to be really quite exciting. It's going to be quite a shift. And if you look at when all of this really began, beyond hippie time, it was really 2012 when there was quite a big shift. And many ancient scriptures and also spiritually sensitive people are all talking about the golden age really coming into its own in 2032. So we're literally at this kind of linear time tipping point, but we're also at an energetic tipping point. And so although the next 6 months are going to be very hard at the 3D level, by the time we get into next spring, and yes, it won't be over, and yes, we'll still have challenges, we are going to see more green shoots of new Earth than we have seen in the last 10 years, because it's like a seesaw. We'll have gone over that seesaw. And as I understand it from cosmologists, that there is more photonic light in our world than we've certainly had in the last 12,000 years. That's why people are getting all these physical symptoms and headaches and dizziness and aches and pains, because we're having to upgrade so darned quickly. But isn't that exciting? And, I mentioned in my dowsing how kind of crazy it's getting with the jumps in people's frequency. And for some people, it literally appears that their frequency is now infinite. And of course, for all of us, this is where we're headed. This is where we're going. So, you look at this, well, which I never do, but if you look at, the nightly news, you're going to get a very contracted view of reality. Whereas if you start to go out, set clear intentions to meet like-minded people who are on the same wavelength and start to come together in community, you are literally creating, you are literally building something that can have your focus and attention. So it isn't just the turning away from what you don't want. It is literally creating what you do. And I know groups that have set up, there may be a couple of hundred of them, and they're set up mini working groups within that of homeschooling, growing vegetables, common law, all these different working groups where that rich knowledge of the group can be funneled into specializations to help all of the group. And that literally is happening. It's happening right across the UK. I'm sure it's happening internationally. And so if that's taking up your focus, your attention and your energy, you can get really excited, and you can say, I'm in touch with those guys on a daily basis. I can see how it's building quickly. And that is, this is a totally new vision of New Earth than we've ever had before.
And it goosebumps as you're talking.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's insane. So if that can become your reality day to day, boy, does that change your frequency. In a moment, that changes your frequency.
Yeah. There's a vast amount of people I know in my own network and from here in London and in Devon, where I'm residing with my parents, and also in Ibiza, there's a lot of community talk. There's a lot of gathering of together. And one thing that really, that really moves me is communication. I'm a Gemini, triple Gemini or 7 times Gemini, whatever it is. It's all about communication. And our communication levels at the moment are poor. I'm going to be very honest. I'm sorry if you're taking offense to this, anyone at home. You may be an individual that's excellent at communication, but on a whole, very rarely do we know how to communicate with ourselves because we haven't yet been in the world of honesty with ourselves. And this is what I think over the next 6 months is going to really kind of move people, is the level of dishonesty on a global platform. In any way you look, there's a level of dishonesty that's coming out now. But it's also, if you are looking to live this incredibly harmonious, beautiful, amazing life, you have to create that ground yourself. And the thing that I personally started to realize, many years ago when I started doing the personal development, personal responsibility stuff, with mentoring, was I'd speak to so many people that were incredibly gifted and were, paving the way for spirituality, but couldn't reply on WhatsApp, within a week. They were just constantly ignoring it. Or they'd be like, yeah, I'm, amazing. And this is happening, but, they're terrible on emails, or they can't, there's some block in their own life where they just don't want to do the digital, or they don't want to do the social media, which is fair enough. I came off social media, but for me, it's the micro. We're going to look at the macro in the sense of that's going to be forced in our faces over the next 6 months, whether you want to see it or not. You're going to see what's going down in the world. You can put your head under your pillow, or you can, wake up with us all and say, right, we need to change. But what's going to happen for individuals is individual conversations between people are going to get very heated because it's asking for a better version of you. The universe is saying there's a better you in there. There's a more improved version of you in there. You can have all of this if you are willing to come up to that level, but it's going to mean radical honesty. It's going to mean if there's an uncomfortable situation in your life, how do you get out of that? Can you move away from that? Can you move into an area where you are okay with being completely honest about how you feel, how you've operated, what your intentions are with your loved ones? And this is where I feel like our work really, I was asked to do a potential talk at a Truth Festival in Totnes, which is going to be at the 30th of October, I think. And I was thinking about what I could potentially talk about. And I'm not qualified to talk about the V word. I'm not qualified to talk about, all the other things that are happening in the world. But what I do know that has worked for me is taking that personal responsibility. And I think if we collectively were willing to own our own stuff, if we were willing to dig deep, that is the only place really that we have right now the true power. Because when you pull out all your weeds, like you're doing the gardening, you're pulling out all your weeds, you slowly start to see you're creating fertile soil for yourself. If we're all doing that, that's a whole field of fertile soil. That's not like a little patch. That's an entire field for us to start moving, for the world to start working with us, the universe to start coming in. And, for really making change, we have to dig deep. And this is the part where your guidance of going into the garden and, even with your dowsing video that you just did, if anybody hasn't watched that, go and check it out. These things that can really help us make those little decisions like, oh, should I say this or should I say that? We've got the tools. We've got everything we need. You were talking about the dowsing man before we came on. What was his name again? Raymond
Grace, without a D, RAYMON Grace, and it's www.raymondgrace.us.
Mm-hmm.
If you go onto his About Dowsing page, you can download the dowsing chart I was using completely free.
Yeah, because there's people like this out there, and that have already been helping people for many years. We're not asking you to believe in, unicorns, although I would love to see one at some point in my life, but we're not asking you to believe in unicorns. What we're saying is that we know that the solutions that we need to move forward are already here. We're not missing anything. We're not looking for anything new. What we have to do is put our faith into something we might not have seen before or trusted before, but we're asking to dig that little bit deeper and to look at things like dowsing that can support us just to make a decision. It's like, I think people overcomplicate it and they're like, oh, but we need sustainability and how do we change the whole planet? And, how do we all become vegan? That's macro. That's huge. I'm asking like, how are you in WhatsApp? Are you replying to friends and are you good? Are you telling people the truth? Or are you still saying that you're sick and you don't want to go out? And that's, rather than sharing how you really feel, like, how's your relationship? It's this minute level that I think we can make the most change. So I wanted to kind of position that with you with regards to, and this is what I think is quite important for a lot of people. We're getting our news from YouTube. We're getting our news from all these different platforms. Your audience that you have, is there like because I find a lot of frustration when I read the comments in lots of people's worlds. Everybody's frustrated and they kind of take their anger out, and they're scrolling and they go down. If there was a kind of a message that you could put out there to people who are waking up, people who are searching for more information, who can't wait to type something, that wants to put the note, is there a message that you'd like to say to these people that you could get them to kind of look at their own stuff? What would your kind of wise words be for somebody that's watching that just is so angry, that wants to start typing and wants to start having a go? What would your message be in that moment, in that kind of the choice moment?
I think in the choice moment, always go into your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Just step back, take a few moments to breathe in and out of your heart and ask your heart for guidance. Mm-hmm. And I would really do that. And you tend to get very different answers from when the head answers impulsively, angrily. Mm-hmm. And also, whenever you're in anybody's in anger, they're lowering their frequency, and they're lowering the frequency of the people they're connecting with. Mm-hmm. And so what's so crazy at the moment are these divisions between us, when ultimately we are going to move to unity consciousness. And the longer the divisions last, the slower it will be to experience New Earth for the masses, as it were, for many, many people. Some small minority is going to start, as they already are, to experience it. But if more of us want to experience it, the best way is to be kind and to come from the heart, because this may be true for you, Nat, and it's certainly true for many people, that your friends from the past may have very different views to you. Mm. And there's no point in me I'm always very honest with them. They know exactly where I'm coming from, but there's no point in getting into an argument because that lowers both of our frequency and it doesn't get us anywhere. So I always think, I've always loved this person. For the last 30, 35 years, I've loved this person. I still love them. They've made a different choice to me, and that's okay for their soul journey. And we will eventually meet in unity consciousness at some point. I don't quite know what that point's going to be, but we are delaying that precious moment and the experience of New Earth for the majority if we bicker. It's just so pointless to bicker. So always act with compassion, always act with kindness. And I think my single biggest answer would be check in with your heart.
Yeah.
Get out of the head, check in with your heart.
And if people are thinking, how do you do that? I'm going to give you a very simple demonstration. Close your eyes, keep your mouth closed just as much as your eyes are closed, and breathe, and just go in and ask the question there, rather than like, what's my heart saying? You know, it's like, okay, it's not that. It's closing your eyes, keeping your mouth closed, and just going into that space and taking a breath. And it's that simple to give yourself that little bit of awareness where you are asking a deeper version of yourself. You're asking your higher self. You're speaking to God, whatever you want to call it. It's not hard to find yourself. It's not hard to find you. And we get passports. We're like, oh, I'm going off to Australia, which is not a good place to go right now. But people are going to Australia to find myself. And I'm like, just close your eyes. It's a lot cheaper. We don't, you don't have to fly anywhere to go and do that. But it's difficult for a lot of people, and there's a lot of confrontation around at the moment, because I think what we're seeing is obviously there's a divide between the V's and the non-V's. We'll leave it there. But there's also a wave of people that have decided to go down a route where they have chosen their V for whatever reason, but are now waking up. And they're now like, oh my God. So we've got a whole wave of people that are going into regret, into shame. Nobody likes to say, I told you so. Nobody likes to say that, or to be heard, oh, I told you so. What we need to do is not point out what's already taken place. We need to help people and say, this is what I know. How can I help you? What can I do to support you in this time? Rather than being like, well, I told you that last March. That's not going to help. It might make you feel good in the second because you feel right. And for a long time, you felt wrong in some way. You felt like, oh my God, am I going crazy? But that's an ego discussion. That's an ego decision. And I think the best way for us to heal is remember the I told you so. No one wants to hear that from anybody who's wide awake, who's bang on YouTube, that's been awake for years, that, follows David Icke and everything else. Nobody wants to know that. They just want to know in that moment that they've got a friend, that they've got someone that can support them. They've got somebody they can talk to and say, oh, okay, what's my next steps? Because you're becoming, that people talk about light warriors, oh, I'm a light warrior. And it's like, really? Okay, now's the time. Now's the time, because all you're here to do is just switch the light on. It's not to like switch it on, shine a torch in their face and it's just switch the light on in the room and let them know they're not in it on their own.
Yeah, I think that's beautifully, beautifully said, Nat, and to have compassion. And it's almost, I love Chariclo's symbolism here. You probably heard me talk about Chariclo. And she has the ability just to heal people by holding sacred space, simply by her state of being. She seems quite silent, this permanent Buddhist state of being, the ground of being, I want to say, in Buddhism. And she can just heal people by that. And so I think that is the role going forwards we are going to be stepping into. Again, it's dropping out of the mind and into the heart, holding space so that person can feel held in whatever they are going through. And I think that's going to be a very big part of our role moving forwards. I absolutely do. And that's going to be coming down the track, any moment and through the next few months. And so that's precious to learn that. And also, I think, just forget judgment, as you say, forget ego, forget all of those things, because they just don't matter. They're not relevant in that moment. To be the best we can be for that person, we hold heart space, we hold compassion.
Yeah. There's a really interesting book that somebody gave to me. My friend Tom gave it to me the other day. I was having a conversation with God in the car, as I often do. And I was like, I swear I'm missing something. Like, I just need to, I need you to switch the light on. I need you to help me on this one. Within 3 seconds of me surrendering my little problem over and asking God, I got a text message from a friend. And a very new friend, and he gave me a book to read, and it was a game changer. It really was a really helpful book, and it's called Awareness by Anthony D'Amelio. and I don't Anthony or Anthony, whichever one it is, but Anthony D'Amelio, and it cuts through 99% of the crap that we talk about on planet Earth. It is so on point. And I really want to just mention that for if anybody's looking for a book right now or looking for some answers, this is going to take you into your emotions and then make you realize that you put yourself there and take you out very quickly, very succinctly, that this guy is like, you can't get away. He's going to hold you. You never fall out with an author. You never fall out with the author ever. You're just like, okay, I'll listen to that. And you recognize yourself when you're reading or when you're listening to someone. You respond intimately with your body and you feel a change. So that book really has helped me recently. It made me realize that I had a large projection onto someone and of everything I hoped they'd be, but actually they weren't anything what I'd hoped they'd be. And I was ignoring the reality. I was trying to look for the better version and being like, no, but they're amazing. And they're just pretty crap right now. I could just accept that. And that's okay. I still love them, but they're just a little bit crap right now. And I was like, oh, because I was trying to be super spiritual about it and love them and be like, yeah, they're amazing. No, they just didn't do what you wanted them to do. And I was like, oh, and it really took me out of this big projection, that I'd had there, this pedestal scenario. So it really did help me. And I kind of wanted to share that. And so also I wanted to kind of briefly go into, last time we was discussing, we talked a little bit about finance. We were talking about crypto and changes and things like that. I'm studying Forex trading and I have an incredible Forex coach. And people keep saying to me, why are you studying Forex? Currencies are going to go out the window. And one of the reasons I decided to go down this path was to understand our relationship to money, regardless of who you are. Our relationship to money is extremely deep. It's a very deep form of energy. And money is, a lot of people put their identity in their money. A lot of people put their self-worth there. They put their reliance on money. They think, oh my goodness, all my money's in the bank. It's fine, it's safe, and having a trust in this system. And I thought quite often, and I've mentioned to you before, when this system shakes in the way that we know it will, because it's inevitable, the calculator's broken and it's no longer working. When this system shakes, we're going to be dealing with not just a confusion about the world, an awareness of, oh my God, I'm waking up, I don't really know what this is. We're going to be forced into a position where we're asking ourselves, or we're being forced to ask ourselves, what is actually holding value? What do I value? What is worth it? What can I rely on? What is true for me? And that is a very difficult space. I mean, ask any man that's lost his money or lost a business and has to go from something to nothing. It's one of the hardest journeys to get back up from. And I feel like, I know you've mentioned before I think you said October was quite a tumultuous time in terms of currencies and things like that. Have you got any kind of wise words around how somebody might be able to handle their emotions in relationship to the news that may come around currencies, that may come around money, that may come around a new financial system or something? Have you got any other insight where people can look in an alternative direction maybe?
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? And you're so right, Nat, that we are so deeply programmed. Our entire lives have been around, you've got to work hard, you've got to earn a good salary, then you've got to buy a house. That's been our programming all the way through. So money so often for people is also the replacement or the compensation for a lack of emotional security that they had when they were young, because it gives them a sense of solidity that they may not have had in terms of emotional support from their parents. And I see that in one particular area of the chart, and they're kind of interchangeable, that the money has become the support that they didn't have when they were 1, 2, 3 years old. So it's very interesting, and they're often very successful people because they're so driven and resourceful in making money. But you are so right that with Uranus in Taurus is finance, banking, currencies, all that kind of thing. It's also our value system. Uranus is there. It's going to stay there till 2026. We are going to have some radical shifts, not only in banking, in finance, in stock markets, in currencies, the whole caboodle. And Uranus is always the planet of surprise. So whatever I think it's going to be as an astrologer, it won't be that, because it'll rug pull.
What do you think it's going to be? Tell us. We could look somewhere else.
I think there is going to be a lot of stock market turbulence. I think a lot of the banks are going to be challenged. There's a lot happening with China and Evergrande at the moment. I think their stocks were suspended yesterday. That's a considerable chunk of the Chinese economy. There are all kinds of tentacles.
Oh, they're like the third largest or the largest property developers or something as well.
Second largest property developer, and property is about 15% of the Chinese economy. So so lots of ripples and ramifications of that. So yes, I think it's going to be. I think a lot of things are going to happen quickly, and therefore diversification is a good idea if you have any savings at all. I think the real value is going to come in people. And that's going to be the shift. You
are your commodity, as my mom's always said to me.
Yeah. It's going to come from people. Yeah. It's going to come from growing food. It's going to come from your local networks, whether it's your neighbors or getting to know your local farmers, or can you buy a local allotment and get to know the old guys, on those allotments. It's those local networks and communities which we may have just dismissed in the past. I mean, if you live in London or any big city, you barely know your neighbors typically. But it's a whole different ballgame now, where we are all going to have to support each other in our different ways with our different gifts and abilities and our different resources. So yeah, I think we're going on quite a roller coaster. I don't know if you listened to the video I did on the US Pluto return.
Yes, I did.
That's quite interesting. If you look at various dimensions of whichever way you look at it, I think we are entering a big period of turbulence, not just economically, but in many, many ways. And that's why I've been saying for quite a few months that I think many systems are collapsing, education, politics, medical, financial, legal, a lot of systems that have been foundational through our lives are going to start to kind of crack and creak. So therefore, it comes back to you, your anchor, your heart, but also your other human connections. They are going to get you through. Is there some chap who, you could borrow his generator for a while if electricity, it's all of that local stuff. It's people that you have to love and to bring into your family. So I think it's going to be local networks in terms of family, but equally search for a family of frequency.
Yes, I like this at this point. I think the last time, was it March when I spoke to you before? I think it was back then. Since then, I have trained with Elaine Thompson, which I believe I put you in touch, and you girls were going to chat at some point. I went on Elaine's teacher training course, her deeper kind of course into frequencies. And I found out that we all have a birth note. We all have a solid frequency that we were born into. So we look at our astrology and we look at the frequencies. There's a mathematical calculation that you do. And from that derives your original frequency as your harmonic self. And I found out that mine was 17.766, which is the frequency, ironically, of psilocybin mushrooms. So that might explain quite a lot of my party days. But I found out that, and I was like, wow, this is mind blowing. And then I did a chart for my friend. And my friend, John, who's probably watching at some point, my friend is a birthday day after me. And we looked at ours. He hasn't got the same frequency as me, but he's within the same bandwidth. He's in the same similar range. And I started to realize that, when we do meet those people, we can feel that frequency connection. We can feel that vibe. You're like, oh my God, I love this person, or do not like this person. And I don't believe that everybody that we meet is necessarily good or bad. It's just sometimes it's this frequency that we kind of bond with a little bit more. It's a little bit stronger in some areas, and it isn't, when you're tuning in the radio, sometimes it just clicks and it's perfect. Sometimes it's a bit distorted. And what I realized with that is understanding your birth note, understanding what truly is your frequency, and understanding what it feels like to really be you without all the trauma that you've experienced. Because there was a way that I was put on the sound bed that Elaine has, and I laid there and I felt myself back to my original self. And it was like I was on mushrooms, because that is the psilocybin frequency, but it was very chilled, very childlike, really relaxed, so in my heart space. I was like, oh, this is it, remembering who I actually am. And I think what we're going to do now is go on a longer, deeper journey into sound, which is obviously I Am Sound, which is the membership I've built. But it's learning about these, what we call ancient lessons and ancient wisdoms that are actually, you know, what we should have been doing. But it's learning about sound and frequencies and going in, you know, and trusting in frequencies, trusting in astrology, trusting in the ancient, trusting in the thing that, you know, you look at the world around you now and you're like, where can you put your trust? There is nowhere. So you might as well start widening the mind, opening it up a little bit and being willing to look into the areas that maybe you would have called woo-woo. Maybe you'd have been, you know, taking the piss out of someone saying, oh yeah, she's such a hippie. And now you're like, what's that? You know, is there something over there that I need?
So yeah, I understand that very well.
Yeah, it's a really interesting. I'm so grateful right now to be alive, and I think we are living in an exciting time. Things are changing, things are folding, and I do very little, even though people think I'm busy all the time. It's because I have a lot of a network, but I do very little, and a lot comes to me because I'm centering, I'm bringing myself down. I keep coming into myself. I'm meditating more. I'm more connected to myself. I'm moving away from the things that don't serve me. I've got my boundaries in place. And when you're stable, the universe brings you everything you need.
Yeah.
It's literally as simple as that. It's just that we get in our own way usually.
Yeah, that's so true. It's a real sense of presence and being in the now. Mm-hmm. And that's where our power is as well. And also moving forward, I think what's really exciting as well, apart from the collaboration community and network, is we are becoming different beings. You know, we're stepping more into our light body. We're shifting from density to, it's almost like we're shifting from particle to wave, and we will eat more lightly. We'll eat plant food. More people will practice sun gazing and breatharianism, and don't look at the sun, please, unless you take good advice on that. But there will be a telepathy, a healing, a tuning in to each other, and also tuning in with animals and plants and birds and trees. There's going to be this wonderful, much, much greater sense of everything is frequency, everything is energy. And we are just one note, as you say, within that symphony, that whole universal symphony. And that's going to feel beautiful because everything will be flowing rather than pushing. You know, we'll move away from this density and effort, and you'll just be flowing. And as you say, things come to you, but you'll also be beaming out a lot of love to connect to other beings. And that isn't just people, it's animals, trees, plants, you know, everything. And it becomes then very, very high vibration and very exciting. And that's coming down the track right now because of what we're experiencing. You know, I've said many times, the energy lines of the earth are strengthening and widening. The spikes in the Schumann resonance, strength and amplitude, crazy. You know, there are a lot of measures, the solar storms, the coronal mass ejections, a lot of things are radically different from where they were even a year ago. Yeah. And so take that as evidence of what we're going through. And it's because the light is shining so brightly that it is shining in dark corners.
Yeah.
And the reason that the old systems are collapsing so rapidly is because they can't continue to exist in that high frequency light. You know, because you can't have two levels that are so different in frequency. This is just basic chaos theory. So the old has to collapse and come down. So see that as just a symptom of our upgrades.
Yeah. And I think everybody can recognize if they truly looked from what you're saying there, and if they truly just switched off the news for a bit and you know, reduced the amount of Telegram groups that you're in, and you just, you know, focused on being here now. It's been really nice to tune into yourself and just try to recognize what is already coming into your life that's high vibe that you may have missed. because you've been so in something else. Like, try and recognize where the changes are happening, even if you have to make a list. Make a list that you can check every day and say, that relationship's changing, that friendship's changing. Oh, I made some money over there. Oh, that felt different. Just, even if you have to write it down, it's just to recognize it in order to focus on it, because it might seem quite confusing out there at the moment. But I know that for me, it always helps that if I write down, oh, what did I see today? Or what would I like to see today in the morning, is, to see if I can recognize that. But there's a whole other thing happening for me in my personal life, because I've shifted quite a lot, obviously, with studying what I'm studying, into sound and so much. There's a quality of relationships that are becoming vastly different in my life, between the people that I meet, the places that I go. That I'm going on a date, as I said to you before, Pam. I'm going on literally on a date after this, and it's a date that I would never have been on before. It's the guy is realized that I was a little bit lacking in culture, because I said I don't really do the kind of cultured stuff the way that you do, and he decided to take me. So we're going to see. I wanted to mention it. It's a London Philharmonic Orchestra playing Mozart at the Cadogan Hall. Now, I would never do this in my past, never. But it's come to me because I'm obviously ready for it. And this is just a date. So we're not asking you to be super spiritual. We're not asking you to kind of look on your yoga mat or try and find it. It comes in the most obscure ways, where the universe is saying, go this way. Go this way, experience this, listen to Mozart on Spotify instead of EDM, or, change from heavy metal and start listening to yoga music. You can make these really subtle decisions and choices that will be the frequency of where you actually want to go. And to kind of just make those observations, I think, rather than just head in the sand or stressing, it's, where is my life already showing me signs of this new earth that Pam's talking about every time she goes on YouTube? Where can I see this? Yeah. It's that simple.
And feed yourself with what makes you feel good, whether that's music, whether that's being in nature, whether that's certain people where you don't have to cut bits off from yourself. You can be completely authentic and in who you are. And also, yes, the list is a great idea, because just the other day I was thinking, even back 2 years ago, what kind of thing was I interested in? I loved current affairs. I loved knowing what was happening in the world. And that's just fading away now. That's just a long way gone. I feel so removed from mainstream society. My local very small town is a mile away. I haven't been there for 22 months. And it's a mile, so I just feel, I have organic food delivered. I just feel very removed, and I'm cultivating that direction. So I'm spending my time, my energy, my laughter, my joy, where I do have space with people I love, and I just connect to on the same frequency. And life, therefore, continues to be joyful, even though that ghastly stuff is going on out there at 3D, because I'm trying to live. In fact, I believe I am living on a different timeline to that.
Yeah, I feel it comes through your videos. You're definitely living in somewhere that most people aren't. I think this is why your subscribers have just gone through the roof, because and this is your transmission. Your transmission is you're putting out what you're feeling. And, without even saying it, we can feel who you are. We know to look for you. We can feel guidance. We can come away from watching a video and be like, Pam has spoken. It's like, done. I'm done for the day now. I can sleep. And I think yours is the only videos that I will watch if I'm in bed on YouTube. And I should really take my phone to bed, but I do sometimes. And when I do, yours are the only ones that I will watch on YouTube just before bed, because I know that even if you're telling me that the shit's going to hit the fan, I'm going to feel okay in the next 27 minutes when you're done. I'm like, it's going to sound good. Even if it doesn't look good, it's going to sound good. And I'm going to feel okay about facing this reality that we're going into. So I'm conscious of your time as well, because you've got something else after, and I've got to go and have a shower and get ready for my date. So just before we go then, is there, can you give us 2 dates that we need to kind of look out for? That might, something that we might need to prepare for, or something that can leave people thinking, oh, what's going to happen on that?
Yeah, I think certainly the second half of October is going to be quite lively. There's very, very strong energy. The full moon is very dynamic on the 20th, really from the 18th onwards. So there's going to be a lot potentially of action in the world. Then we go into eclipse season as well. I think the other big date to watch for really, really positively is around the winter solstice. Because I'm getting really goosebumpy now. I'm getting from my dowsing that we are going to get another massive wave of energy similar to December 2020. Do you remember the
I do
conjunction? And a lot of people at Uluru and Sedona and these sacred places. We had a big boost of energy at the Libra equinox. I believe we're going to have another really big one at the winter solstice, or, southern hemisphere. That would be different, obviously, but in the northern hemisphere, winter solstice. If you can get together in a group, if you can get together on a sacred site, potentially as well, where the energy lines are powerful, that could be a really transformational time for you.
Amazing.
I'd really encourage you. And try and feel, again, get out of the head into the body, and feel and be in the now, be in your presence, be in your heart, be in your anchor. And that can take us on another fabulous trajectory forwards.
I love it. I love every word you say, Pam. I shouldn't really have a guru complex, but I do. I'm just like, I love you so much.
Very normal. I'm very normal, I promise.
Yeah, I need to take you down off the pedestal. When I meet you in person, I'll be like, this is not what she is on YouTube. I'm joking. But no, I feel you're the right kind of guide, that what we need right now. We don't have leaders in the world the way that we would like to have leaders. We really don't. We have to lead ourselves. That's the obvious reason. We are meant to push ourselves forward. I truly had an incredible experience last winter solstice. It was amazing. It was the reason why I moved the whole family, my mum and dad, and we moved down from Yorkshire to Devon. I saw 7 rainbows that week in one day, which was just bonkers and nuts, and it was so mystical. So I do hope that we have that again as well. Yeah, I hope so. I'm holding you to it. If it doesn't happen, I'm coming and knocking. I won't. But for anybody that's out there watching, if you haven't already tuned into Pam's videos, I'm sure you have. If you haven't, go and check them out. Please like and subscribe on Pam's channel as well. You can do that on my channel if you'd like to. If you're new and you've never seen me before, and I know, Pam, you're probably going to share this on your platform. So if you've never seen me before and you want to hear more from me, you can put your little effort into the like button and also to the subscribe, and I will greatly appreciate it. And I do actually have a free workshop on boundaries, so how to really do the micro stuff, not the macro stuff, showing up to yourself. That free workshop is on the 24th of October. Drop me a message, let me know. You can go to my website, which will be details will be underneath, and you can sign up and just get a little taste of Nat Rich and see what else I'm doing. So I think that's it. We've smashed it. You've got your stuff to do. I'm going on my musical date, which is the first.
That was fabulous for you.
I hope it's. It'll be all right if I'm bored. Can you imagine that? If I was bored on my date, I was like, I'm so cultured, and I'm like, oh my god, how long is this going to last? But no, I think I will have a successful evening, all being well. So. Thank you so much, Pam. You are a star. Everybody else back home, thank you so much. Stay safe, and please do reach out with any questions. And last thing, Pam is not doing any readings. There's no more readings. There's no point in trying. And also, she's had somebody that has been also trying to impersonate her, which if there's another video that you've mentioned that, and you can describe what's going on there on the other video, is if Pam's offering readings, it's a hoax. It's a lie. It's not real. It's a magician. So we just wanted to say that just to support you, Pam, as well, because I know it's been a bit of a bugbear for you.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that, Nat. Really problem. Speaking with you today. And I hope you have a fabulous date, more important.
I know. Gosh, so do I. Now I think this is good. The energy's raised. Going a bit blushed, I think now. Am I going red? I know. Oh, well, I've told the whole world now I'm going on a date. I'm like, this better go well.
You're looking
Thank you so much. I will stop recording, but for everyone else at home, we'll catch you on the next one.